The last month, I've been taking creatine every single day. There are a whole list of benefits linked with taking it if you're a bodybuilder, weight or powerlifter.
I could do this all day. All right, cheers.
But what about if you're a cyclist?
Haven't been sick yet, but kind of close.
In this video, I'm on a mission to find out more about this legal supplement and find out for myself if it will make me ride any faster.
I think I'll be sick.
I've never taken creatine before, and despite hearing about it spoken of as a sports supplement, I'm coming at this totally blind because I want to discover if this is potentially a supplement that's worth taking for us cyclists, and also whether in hindsight this would have benefited me as a pro cyclist. To start with, this is a relatively cheap and legal sports supplement to take. What is key about it is that it's linked to improving your performance across short bursts of activity. Creatine is naturally produced in the body and it's stored in the muscles as phosphocreatine. And you can actually find creatine present in many foods, including milk, fish, mollusks, red and white meat. So it's already probably part of your diet. Phosphocreatine is a key part of your body's immediate energy system. It's used for really intense bursts of power between sort of 10 and 30 seconds. So theoretically, by supplementing with creatine, you can increase your body's stores of creatine, and therefore that phosphocreatine can be replenished quicker between these intense efforts, therefore increasing your performance across such short durations of effort, like sprinting, strength efforts, and anything that really involves a lot of power. Look, in general, cycling is an endurance sport when you're riding on the road. But pro cycling and racing, when you're riding for performance reasons, it can be a different story, because whilst a lot of the time you're riding like this, there's plenty of times when you're riding like this. Now though, I am trying creatine. Previously, a daily loading dosage was recommended for taking it, 5 to 7 days of 20 to 25 grams. It's been shown that is no longer necessary, and my month of taking creatine has consisted of a low daily dose of 5 grams.
So the truth is, as a pro, I really never considered taking creatine. I think it's because I associated it with like bodybuilding or going to the gym, and I was really worried about the risk of contaminated supplements. Maybe this played into it too. It just really was not worth it. But also, you know, creatine's got quite a big reputation in terms of putting on weight and the water retention as a result of taking it. And for a cyclist, for me in that moment, that's like kryptonite. Whether that's right or wrong in terms of weight being a good thing or a bad thing and to put it on, separate issue. But at the time, that did stop me trying this. But I have been taking it now for 3 weeks. I've been taking a daily dose of about 5 grams. I've been looking into the research. There's so many positive effects that can arise potentially from taking this, not just on the bike. So I am going to be interested to see if it translates to a power improvement.
To find out what the current research and knowledge is on creatine from an endurance standpoint, and also find out where my own preconceptions on this supplement originated from, I caught up with Dr. Sam Shepherd, Head of Sports Science at Precision Fuel and Hydration.
Yeah, I think the traditional perception of creatine is it's essentially for strength-based athletes, for people who are going to engage in high intensity type activities, sprinting, for example, and also those who are maybe looking for aesthetic benefits, so bodybuilders and things like that. And that's traditionally where creatine has been used, and probably that perception has essentially changed over the last few years, and maybe over the last 20 years, I would suggest. We've learned more and more about creatine and its functions in the body, but its potential other roles in health and performance. So outside of simply providing a substrate to regenerate ATP, it has a number of other potential roles in the body. So for example, we know that, or it has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant capacity, so it could be useful as a tool to improve the recovery following exercise. We're reducing the cell damage that we can create during some of the exercise, and creatine might help offset some of that. We also know that creatine can support glucose uptake into skeletal muscle as well, so it can help us resynthesize or regenerate those glycogen stores a little bit faster after we've engaged in hard exercise. So that's another aspect of recovery that it might be able to support with. There's also evidence to show that it can improve cognitive function. So again, if we're thinking in the context of sports, then we obviously want to think about making decisions quite quickly, particularly during bike racing. We're in the peloton, we might need to go with a break. We need to make a decision under fatigue, and that's where creatine could also support a role as well. So we're looking much more outside of the traditional way that creatine might support ATP regeneration, but also some aspects of recovery and cognitive function as well.
So far then, creatine for me seems like a bit of a no-brainer. I'm a month in now, coming to the end of my creatine journey. I'd say the only side effects I could potentially talk about is bloating, which has come if I've taken it in the middle of the day with a coffee. Definitely felt a bit of discomfort for an hour or two in those cases, but then I've moved my dosage to the evening, haven't had any issues there. Potentially noticed a tad bit of weight gain, very, very small, less than a kilo, although my weight does fluctuate somewhat, but 1 or 2 kilos is really, really hard to say, to be honest. I'm interested though to see, a month in, how creatine affects my power. So I've gone back, you can see on screen now, my power values when I was a pro, when I just retired, and also this year for very kind of short duration efforts, 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes. So you're all plotted on a kind of power curve chart there. Today I'm heading out, I'm gonna see how my power today compares. Will creatine allow me to up my game on those real high intense efforts? And I'm really curious, also slightly apprehensive, because basically this is gonna hurt. I'm about to hit it hard, folks. See how I get on. Two, one, and oh, been a while since I've blown out cobwebs like that. I think I'll be sick. Oh. 1 minute down. Just a 5-minute effort to go. Haven't been sick yet, but kind of close. Whew, well, that hurt. Getting home now, gonna download all the data off my Wahoo, plot it back into that chart and see how it compares. See what conclusions I can initially draw before heading to the GCN Acton Turbo Test Track. Creatine's going up against the best.
Okay, so I've got back from my effort and I've been going through my results. You should be able to see them on the screen now in a kind of power curve, and you can see where my efforts, once loaded with creatine, fits into my all-time personal best power values. It's been really interesting actually to look at the results, because they're quite high actually for 30 seconds and a minute. More than I've ever done since I retired as a pro cyclist. My 30-second power is actually pretty comparable to what I was doing as a pro, and my minute power especially is the best I've done since I retired. It does start to drop off there though once you get to that 5-minute effort. Best I've done all year, but not the best I've done as a GCN presenter, and a good bit off what I did when I was racing as a pro. So there's a lot to kind of draw from that. It's really interesting. I mean, 30 seconds power is nearly 200 watts more than I've done since I retired as a pro cyclist. Which is quite surprising. But I'm looking at creatine from an endurance standpoint. And for that, I really want to do a longer effort once loaded with creatine. So I'm going to recover for a bit, and then I'm going to head to the GCN Test Track.
So I've got to admit, I was pretty blown away by those numbers. I wasn't expecting that much of a jump visibly, if I'm honest. But now I'm really interested to see how that translates to kind of a real world effort, because it's all well and good putting down power for short durations, but it's about how they match up on the road bike on a longer effort that really matters, especially if you're considering a race sort of effort too. So I've come back to GCN Test Track, where I have put beetroot as a supplement through its paces, sodium bicarb. I have got some runs laying down. Now it's time to do my best effort and see how it compares. So I've loaded with creatine. Oh man, still hurts, like it always does. Time to take a little breather. Look at the old data, draw a few conclusions.
When we look at the scientific literature, it's fairly mixed, and particularly in terms of endurance performance. So there was a nice recent sort of review article that kind of collectively looked at the evidence to date and made some suggestions about, yes, it might potentially be useful under certain circumstances and in certain individuals who are engaged in endurance performance. Actually, when there was, and this was about a year ago as well, there was actually a systematic review and meta-analysis conducted. And so a systematic review essentially synthesises all the evidence that we have in the literature to date, and the meta-analysis aspect kind of looks at that in a statistical manner and comes to a conclusion. So it clubs all that data together. What is it telling us to date? And unfortunately, the outcome of that wasn't too positive. The sort of headline takeaway was that creatine monohydrate supplementation wasn't actually effective for improving endurance performance. Now, when you look at the studies that were included in that meta-analysis, they have various dosing protocols. There's different performance tests that have been used, like time to exhaustion or a time trial performance. And so there's probably a little bit too much noise in the literature to come to a convincing statement one way or the other at this point in time. So I think looking beyond that literature and looking on an individual basis and at some of the benefits that creatine might provide to endurance athletes, as we've talked about, so that, improve recovery, maybe improve cognitive function, then it seems that there's an opportunity to potentially use creatine as a tool for endurance performance in some individuals, for sure. Some of the other issues in terms of maybe kidney function being poorer or affected by excessive use of creatine or prolonged use of creatine doesn't seem to hold true in the literature either. So I think it's fairly safe to use consistently, and we see that often with athletes as well.
Right, I'm back at GCN Megabase. I've had time to analyse my effort and also kind of think about my own conclusions on creatine. Really interesting, because let's start with that longer effort on the GCN Test Track. I was slower than my previous personal best. Power's also slightly down, so 400 watts average, 14 minutes and 7 seconds time. So that is a little bit slower than sodium bicarb and beetroot when I tested those supplements on the same course. Now, conditions on the day, they weren't as good. Bit colder, road surface wasn't as good either after a bit of rain, but still, power was down, and personally, I didn't feel quite as good on that longer effort. So, not a huge amount to take away from that. But when I look at those shorter efforts and those shorter power values, the 30-second power especially, minute power especially, that was quite a big eye-opener for me actually, in terms of how much I was actually able to improve my power going back many years there as well. And that is an area of my cycling which has always been my weakness too, especially when I look at when I was racing as a pro. I really struggled when there was a lot of sprinting, a lot of stop-start action, and I always was trying to work on that. So should I have taken creatine then? After what I've learnt throughout this video, yes, I would have done. And I think it would have helped me work on that area of my cycling, which would have really benefited me across all areas of racing. For the everyday cyclist, would I recommend taking creatine? For performance reasons, probably not. But I think there's nothing wrong with it either. I think personally, I feel that the drawbacks of creatine in terms of water retention, weight gain, not as much as people think. The potential risks to your health in terms of kidney function, that's kind of been shown to be disproven too. And when you look at all the research around creatine, there's so many potential benefits out there. You don't need that huge loading dose anymore either. It's a very small, minimal dose. And it potentially has a wide range of benefits for everyone. So for me, at the end of this video, hearing all the information on it, speaking to experts, I would continue taking creatine now. And I feel that it would benefit my cycling and my health in general. So that is my own conclusion. I'm not saying that everyone should go out and start taking creatine, but for me, this has changed my view on this supplement. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Have you ever taken creatine? What do you think of this supplement? Has it worked for you? Did you not like it? Did you have effects which kind of put you off taking it? Always love to hear from you all. Always love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you think of this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up if you found it useful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.